Summit friends, please welcome to the stage Isabel Porras.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Ooh, I cannot see with that one. Hello, welcome. My name is Isabel Porras. I use she, her pronouns. Oh no, it's not on screen, so I'll tell you. Isabel Porras, I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Director of Leadership, Learning, and Development here at Out and Equal, and I am so thrilled to welcome you to today's panel. Just tell you a little bit about what we've got in store for today, and then I'll welcome our panelists, because I know we have had a long morning, and we're all eager to get our learning on. So again, thank you for being here. Despite the progress that's been made to foster more diverse and inclusive workplaces, we know that companies still lack the numbers with limited LGBTQ+ representation among senior executives and in leadership pipelines. Like the glass ceiling for women, LGBTQ+ leaders may face a lavender or pink ceiling that is an unofficial limit to our advancement in the workplace. This ceiling compounds for LGBTQ+ leaders who share other marginalized identities due to race or ethnicity, ability, nationality, and other factors. The LGBTQ+ community is incredibly diverse, right? With respect to race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, ability, and more. But the most prominent, openly LGBTQ+ leaders across the private sector don't always reflect this diversity. Despite major employers' sustained commitment to DEIB, most of the LGBTQ+ leaders who are sent to events much like this one do tend to overly index as white and cisgender, which really validates the need for new programs that take on an intersectional approach to LGBTQ+ leadership development. Our research at Out and Equal demonstrates the need for intersectional leadership and professional development programs like the Out and Equal Diverse Leaders Fellowship that is powered by our partners at Bank of America, as well as our Next Gen Leadership Initiative, also powered by Bank of America, along with our partnership with Korn Ferry's Foundation for Leadership U for Humanity, to not only engage diverse talent, but to support their ascension through the leadership ranks. So to determine how to actually get this done, how to best actualize workplace equity, Out and Equal Workplace Advocates, along with Korn Ferry, surveyed over 130 out-at-work LGBTQ+ leaders, as well as allied leaders, about their career and workplace experiences with openness at work, with workplace relationships, with mentorship opportunities. And we are thrilled today to release our new report, Experiences of the Lavender Ceiling, Progress and Continued Challenges Facing Out LGBTQ+ Leaders at Work. You'll find the full report, insights, along with actionable steps towards more inclusive leadership on our website right now. And today, I am thrilled to welcome our distinguished panel of diverse leaders fellows, out senior leaders, to unpack the insights gleaned from this research and to further explore the needs of diverse LGBTQ+ leaders. And don't leave after the panel. We do have a very special hosted reception, thanks to our partners at Bank of America, right across the hall, where we'll have some light refreshments and snacks to get us prepared for the rest of the day. So again, please join me in welcoming my distinguished panelists here. All right. So I've contextualized the research, I've introduced you, I'd love to, and I'm not gonna ask each person each question, so don't worry, except for the very first one. Rather than read your bios, as Lily was saying earlier, you know, you kind of sit there awkwardly and someone's smiling and reading your bio, I'd love for you all to introduce yourselves, name, pronoun, organization, but also to answer the question, why is openness and authenticity something that's important to you? So Rashik, why don't we start with you?
Yes, so name is Rashik Ellis. I am with Deloitte, part of the Deloitte Global DEI team. Why is being open at work important to me? For me, it's a matter of my well-being. I found that prior to being out at work, my well-being was impacted because I was covering parts of myself, compartmentalizing parts of myself, which took away the energy that was needed to focus on the work at hand. So that's why it's important to me.
Excellent. Thank you, Rashik.
I'm Ari Linder. I use they, them pronouns, and I work with Bank of America in their Merrill Lynch section as a financial advisor. I use they, them pronouns, and I try to be out wherever I feel safe doing so at work, because people like me don't choose this field or this job because we don't know what that looks like if you've never seen someone do it. As it is, there aren't many people who are different in finance, in advisor roles. So I'm out because people need to see that I exist, so they can be there too.
Thank you. Cindy.
Hi, I'm Cindy. Pronouns are she and her. I work for HSBC. I'm a director in global banking, and I also lead the Pride ERG in the US, as well as the Global Transgender Benefits Working Group for HSBC. Openness and authenticity is, I would say, magical. Sorry, I have to slide that in. We're in Disneyland.
Where we are.
To me, because it completely changed and transformed my career. Before I came out in the workplace, I was, I had an okay career. It's not going the way that I wanted it to go. And after I came out, I completely transformed, became a different person. I became a better colleague, a more authentic and empathetic manager, and I got promoted within 5 years twice within 5 years that I came out. So it was definitely, thank you very much, pivotal to my career, and it's magical.
Excellent. Well, thank you, and again, welcome to all of you for today's panel. So I'd love to intersperse some of the insights from the research along with our questions, and one of the takeaways for us was that being out and being visible supports both positive personal and professional outcomes. Our research asked participants what benefits they personally receive from being out in the workplace, and the results were really interesting. From improved relationships with colleagues, to increased productivity, to maximizing their true potential. Nearly 9 in 10 LGBTQ+ respondents reported improved health and wellness after coming out in the workplace, with 85% of their work life also improved. And so I'd like to start, Rashik or Cindy, what benefits have you experienced from being open about your identity at work? And maybe Rashik, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll start with a little bit of a story, and this story is prior to my joining the great organization known as Deloitte. I was put on a performance improvement plan, also known as a PIP, at a prior organization. And really, in the end, I was put on that plan because I didn't fit into the team. And so I was doing things that weren't normal, I guess. And while I was put on the plan, I found myself needing someone to talk to about it, and I found a mentor who took me under her wings. She guided me through it, and she said, no, don't change anything about yourself. In fact, show up to work as your full self. And her giving me that permission to do that changed my trajectory. So I was taken off the PIP successfully, was promoted in the organization, and found that, again, my mental health just was much better because I was able to show up as my full self. And then after that, I received comments from people in the halls and things saying, thanks for sharing your story, thanks for being you. This helps me understand who I am and why it matters.
Absolutely. And Cindy, you mentioned a bit of those with those promotions and everything coming out. What other benefits or challenges have you experienced?
I'm happy to share a story as well, but at the outset, I would say that sharing a bit of personal things about yourself, even just a little bit, can be very powerful because it can turn a formal business or potentially adversarial relationship into a very friendly, constructive one. And the example I'm going to give you is because it's me and my boss, right? And I didn't know that he was gay, and so it so happened that he was gay, and I'm pansexual, and so it's actually after months that we worked together, an occasion arise, and we came out to each other. And yes, as it happens.
Yep.
So before that, I struggled to get his buy-in for the things that I do, and we had an okay relationship, but it's not a great one. But then magically, again, after that, suddenly I found him advocating for me, and so that's one of the benefits. And I also found myself trying to help him embrace his identity because he's an MD, but he was never out in his previous workplace, and I drew him out of his shell, and now he's become a DEI champion for my team and as well as the company. So I think there's definitely benefits for me personally, but the people who I work with as well as the company that you work for.
Absolutely, that's powerful. And we know from the research, from this survey, again, that there's an overwhelming positivity to these experiences. And we saw that to be true within the LGBTQ plus community. But of course, in our conversations, and those of us who were at plenary this morning and heard Ari speak, can we get another round of applause for Ari? That was amazing. One of the things that came up in our conversation as we were prepping for this is the nuances and the differences, particularly for trans and non-binary colleagues compared to cisgender LGBTQ colleagues. And so I'd love to ask you also, what's your experience been in terms of benefits that you've experienced, but also challenges maybe from being open?
Oh, absolutely. So everyone originally assumed I was a lesbian, and it would be hard enough to be a lesbian financial advisor in today's world, right?
Yeah.
But when you come out as lesbian, people kind of get what you're talking about, they understand it, they kind of move on. When you say that you're non-binary, often a look of terror comes across people's faces, and they realize that now I am a coworker who is also a liability because they don't know what to do. So coming out, found some surprising allies. There was a woman working in my office who's been working with our office for decades, could retire any day she wants to, but she's amazing. And as soon as I told her my new pronouns, she's like, say it for me one more time. Yeah, okay, got it. Has never misgendered me. But then there are other challenges too within my teams. So moving up, learning as an advisor, I was always on pace with, I call my work brother David. And we were always working together late, always coming up early. And sometimes we'll get internal referrals. And I started to notice after I came out, people will tell you that they're okay with it. But they can't always help themselves from holding back sometimes. It's not always a conscious decision. Little by little, David pulled ahead. And I'm like, man, I'm hustling. What's going on? Like, I'm talking to folks, I'm doing things. What's different? People had told me that it would happen little by little. And it's not people's faults that they make a subconscious change. But we do need to make sure that people have enough information to feel comfortable around people like me. Because I'm not going to be angry. Like, I'll talk to you. I'll answer most questions or tell you to go to Google. It's also a lot more work when you're accidentally the first person. Yeah. I can't tell you how many phone calls I made, and Alex in our organization trying to help me change my email address, so excuse the name, it'll change very shortly. But there was no built-in mechanism for changing an email address, only partially. Bank of America has an amazing system where you change it here, and boom, changes across the system. But some of my clients don't know it yet. I tried to call them, but it's summertime. So for me, it's been a challenge in spending more time to provide education where if it was an L or a B or a G, maybe they'd be like, gotcha, no problem. And then also as a professional, trying to figure out what to wear as a non-binary advisor. It's hard enough to convince people that I'm not 13. True story, ask me later. Yeah. But then, where do I find professional clothes? Yeah. How do I look like a professional adult when if I wear Mickey Mouse, people will think that I'm a child? How do I be creative in a way that also confers my confidence and my competence? I don't have role models. So for me, there's a lot of extra work because I don't have other people who have been there before. It's great to do it, but it's been a little extra.
It's a little hard.
Still joyful, though.
It's a little hard. Well, you have role models here, and you are a role model here for others. So thank you for that. And the learning part of me would not sleep well if I didn't also highlight for folks here. So we are in one of 3 concurrent premiere sessions that are happening. But don't worry, thank you for choosing this one. The other 2 are being recorded, and you'll be able to catch those later. And I want to flag in particular, my colleague Jean Marie Navetta is facilitating Dress for Your Day, which is precisely looking at how do we express ourselves, our authentic, queer, radical selves, right, in a professional way. So really excited for folks to check out that recording as well. Thank you for sharing that. So I'd love to turn a little bit, and Cindy, turn to you, really. One of the things that we saw from that research is that despite this progress, these increased, positive outcomes, increased health outcomes actually as well, one of the things that we see is the experience of hitting that ceiling, right? Of hitting that lavender ceiling, of lacking visible leadership at your organization, as well as other persistent challenges getting in the way of advancement. So a lot of leaders in that survey said they want to change the face of what a senior executive looks like, but that they continue to face barriers to their goal. They're expected to look a certain way, as you were just talking about, or to regularly socialize with executive leadership to gain visibility and career mobility. So Cindy, how does this resonate with you as a senior leader? Have you faced similar expectations throughout your career, and how do you respond? What do you do?
First of all, I'm not as senior as I want to be. That's why I'm here. Thank you. But it is a reality. That's, to sum up, it is a reality. And, I completely resonate with what you said. Lavender ceiling, triple glass ceiling, double glass ceiling, you name it, I have it. I'm an Asian woman. I'm LGBT+. And I'm short, right? Like, even if I wear heels, I want to reach the ceiling, I still struggle. And people still, when I first came out to, and work as a junior lawyer, people always thought that I was an intern, right? So that's something, that's a challenge for me. And, if I ask you to close your eyes and imagine if you were sitting on a plane, you saw the captain walking out from the cockpit, chances are it's going to be a tall, 6-foot white man, right? It's what society taught us, right? And society has taught us that leaders look a certain way. And very often, unfortunately, the stereotypical traits associated with LGBT+ people do not fit in that leader box. And gay men are considered or perceived as weak, soft, and lesbians are, intimidating, confrontational, right? So, I guess what I want to highlight is that the headwinds for people who don't fit that traditional leaders box, including people of color, women, queer people, remain very strong. And if you ask me, frankly, truthfully, if I believe I would make it all the way to the top, I'd say it's possible if all the stars are aligned. But my cisgender, straight male counterparts are going to have a much better chance. Just look at the statistics. Statistics don't lie. It's just a possibility, a probability. And look at this country. How many years have you been pushing for gender equality? Decades. And many companies, including mine, is still only setting their target 35% senior female leadership by 2025, right? If you truly believe that men and women are as capable as each other, it should be 50-50. And, so that tells us that, that tells us that, meritocracy is still a luxury. And it's going to be even more challenging for the LGBT folks than women, because many companies are already disclosing gender gap, pay gap data, LGBT plus, I think with some companies are starting to do it, but most companies still don't track, disclose, and measure the data, right? So it's going to be even more challenging for that to have meaningful change. And I think it's, going to take another 2-3 generations. I'm not being a pessimist here, but I think that's just a reality. And that is on the condition that you manage to keep certain people away from your government and legislation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Would either of you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I've heard you talk about how some of us are doing work not for our own selves, but for people who come after us. And I often feel that way, is that I am taking the hits today. I am having the career setbacks. I am doing the hard work today. And it will not benefit me or people who are currently here with me. Hopefully, the next folks who come in will have a smoother path. It'll be a little better, but it's not going to be in my time. And I get that, like, part of what we already have is because it was handed to us from an elder generation who did that work. But you have to be realistic that this is going to take time. Maybe.
Yeah.
It can go faster, too.
Absolutely. Excellent. Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I guess just piggybacking off of what Ari said, I've often said, after the events of 2020 that, taking from a congresswoman who said, reclaiming my time. So I've twisted it and said, I'm reclaiming my time and the time of my ancestors. So it's important for me and those behind me.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so it's just, from this perspective of, while we may not have, the most senior leaders out and proud in the C-suites, there's the possibility that there are some. So what started my journey in the DEI space was reading about a former CEO of a major organization who was closeted while he was the CEO or while they were the CEO. And he talked about he felt like his being closeted contributed to a culture that didn't speak up, that led to a big catastrophe that we all know about. And that was just like mind-blowing for me. If this white cisgender man could not be out as the CEO of a major global corporation, what hope did I have? And so at that moment, I walked into the then company, my boss's office, and said, hey, we have words on a page, but how can I help bring it to life? And that began my journey. So I would say, for those of us, is like show up, because it may not only inspire the generation behind us, but the generation that's there and is not out. So, yeah.
As with your leader, yeah. Thank you very much for that. So I'd love to switch gears a little bit and ask the two of you in particular about some of your experiences with our program, and just again contextualize for folks in the audience. One of the things that we knew to be true, I think many of us know are obviously true in our souls, but we backed up with research now, is that all headwinds are not experienced the same way across the community, right? We don't all have the same experience. When we break it down by race, for example, nearly 4 in 10 of white respondents reported that their sexual orientation was the primary source of bias that they experienced, whereas roughly 4 in 10 of non-white LGBTQ plus respondents said race or ethnicity was the primary source of bias that they've experienced, followed by then sexual orientation and gender identity sort of at the same level. When we look at gender, however, we saw that 43% of all transgender respondents reported experiencing discrimination due to their gender identity or gender expression. So we see that the barriers and headwinds, again, are different for different members of our community, and that's precisely why Out and Equal has developed, with support and funding from leaders at Bank of America, the Diverse Leaders Fellowship Program, which aims to diversify the pipeline and address those challenges. So Rashik and Ari, you've both been Diverse Leaders Fellows. I'd love to know your experience in the program. How has it supported you in responding to these challenges as you continue to rise through the ranks? We'll start with you, Ari.
Sure. I was lucky enough to come last year to help on a panel because I'm part of our international training team. And so they knew who I was, trans, pan, out. And they said, well, I think you should also join this diverse leaders group. And I thought, there's a whole group of us? And I'm like looking around the room and seeing that there are different kinds of people and that we're here and in this place, I am not disqualified as a competent professional by the labels that I might have in my life. And that this is a whole room of people who agree on it. And I remember there was one segment on branding. And I've been through branding, I've seen this stuff. But at that moment, coming out happens in a lot of different places at the same time, the layers. I remember sitting there and thinking about how, who I am deeper, authentically, what words always mean the same thing about you, which as a trans person, everything's changing. So the best thing you can do is think about what is you, no matter what else changes, because that stays pretty much the same. And as I'm sitting there having this moment, about to cry in a room full of people, I'm like, this is so much deeper than I thought this moment was gonna be. And for me, it was like, you know what? No matter what I tell people, there are things about me that have always been the same. And if I lead with that, if I move with that, if I give you the genuine vulnerability, I'm kind of geeky, I'm kind of awkward, it just is me, it's okay. It's easier for people to see beyond the things that might confuse or worry them. I've kept that branding little pamphlet takeaway. It's in my desk still. It's kind of tattered. I don't need to look at it anymore, but it was a moment. Very impactful.
Okay, we did not plan this. And by the way, I'm not texting friends. I'm looking stuff up on the app, right? But we did not plan this. But as soon as you started talking, I was like, wait a minute. I have great news for everyone in the room. You may have already identified this in your schedule. It's called the Career Breakthrough Lab. And this is the session that you're talking about with personal branding with Jason. And this has been part of the Diverse Leaders Fellowship Program every year. This year, and as you know, the Diverse Leaders Fellowship Program connects on pre-conference day as well as virtually. This year, we had a tough decision to make. We thought, this session is so powerful, so impactful, it seems not fair to limit it just to the Diverse Leaders Fellows. And so again, thanks to our partners at Bank of America, we are able to offer that session to the summit public attendees. I mean, space is limited, so get there early. Look it up on your app. That session is taking place on Thursday at 9 a.m. in this room. We're in Lake International Ballroom, I believe, so you will be right here in this room. It'll look a little bit different, but if you want to know a little bit more about what Ari is talking about, I definitely recommend that you sign up, and I think you co-signed that, don't you?
Oh yeah, I didn't know we were sponsored. Good job, guys.
As I told you, we didn't prep that. Rashik, tell us about your experience with the fellowship.
Yeah, actually that one as well. And I would say just being in a room with others who have the same shared and lived experience. Even yesterday, as we got together, hearing the stories, the shared experiences was very inspiring. But in addition to that, getting the language and the tools so that when I go back to my workplace, I not only benefit from it, but then I can share it with my colleagues. So one that I actually shared with them was the recording from Minda Harts that you brought in on dealing with racial trauma in the workplace. Exactly.
On our website still.
Amazing. Check it out. And, as we identify in various communities, so I was able to take that to my Black professionals. And again, it was these mind-blowing experiences where people was like, wow, I didn't think about it in that way. And it's helped improved their experience. So, the resources that the Diverse Leaders Fellowship Program has provided has just been amazing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. I'd love to, and I'm keeping an eye on the clock. I think we'll have some time for a couple of questions from the audience, and I only have a few more questions for the panelists, so again, don't want to take up all the time. But I'd love to switch now and talk to you all about mentorship and sponsorship. That was really one of the major takeaways from our research, just how much mentors and sponsors can change everything for mentees, but also for those who act as mentors. The survey revealed that these programs continue to be the most important, the most supportive, the most needed way to bring up emerging LGBTQ+ leaders throughout the ranks of an organization. So I'd love to ask all three of you actually, and maybe again, Cindy, we'll start with you on this side. Do you have mentors? How have they supported your career? I'd love to hear your mentorship experience.
Absolutely. I do, actually. I have a few mentors. A couple of them are gay. But the one that I want to talk about is actually an ally. He was my former boss. He still works with HSBC. He's in Hong Kong right now. His name is Severe. Since I came out to him and told him all about the work that I do in Pride, he's nothing but supportive. Just to give you some examples, I gave him, we have these HSBC rainbow lanyards. I asked him to, he saw me wearing one day, and asked me about what it is. I told him it's a lanyard. I said, I would have given one to you, but you have to complete the training first. So, no exception. So I went on, I sent him the link, and he did it, and sent me the proof, and said, okay, here you go.
You get a lanyard.
He's been wearing it since, it's been 6 years, and every time I'm on Zoom with him, he's still wearing that same old lanyard. He gave me my first managerial role. I never managed anyone. He saw the potential in me, gave me a team of 20 across 6 countries. And it was a big, recognition of, what I can bring to the table. So I'm super thankful for that. He also, when I, told him that, look, I need to move to New York. I'm from Hong Kong originally. I need to move to New York because my partner is here. And I actually gave him a resignation letter. And he, instead of saying, hey, good luck with everything, and because I was resigning, he said, wait a minute, just put it back and let me figure something out. And so he secured a job for me here helped secure a job for me here in the US. Wow. So I moved here 4 years ago, thanks to him. And, it was, he just advocated for me, right? He saw that he appreciates diverse talent and the diversity of thoughts that the diverse talent can bring to the table. He actually, even though I'm leaving, I told him I had to leave Hong Kong. I can't work for you anymore. He wants to keep me around for the company. So I think that's what a true mentor, good mentor and sponsor should look like. And I'm super grateful to have one. And as you get more and more senior, many of the roles are by referrals, right? Yeah. People, if you're a people manager, if you're a business head, a functional leader, you're going to have a succession plan, right? And when you have to put together a succession plan, you're going to look internally. So it's important that you have people who sees your uniqueness, your value, your diversity of thought, and is willing to go, 100 miles beyond to advocate for you, to elevate you, to, build your network, help you find a position in the company, and, help you progress your career. So find Severe.
Absolutely, and ally leaders and as mentors are so powerful as well. Ari, what's your experience? Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's funny because I'm sure that many of you have had mentors, and I've had several different mentors, and I've got some mentors who I go to for certain things. Like I know this person's good at that, this person's good at that, no problem. If I call, they will pick up. But the best mentor is one who saw me on our international training team and said, you've got some potential. I think that you're just like on the verge of like incredible. Can I be your mentor? And I was like, what? I mean, I'm good, but like, really? and it's been him, Graham, who is an ally, who has been amazing at little things like we were going to redo the Trans 101 deck, which is 20 people, many countries, lots of work. And I was interested, but I was like, I don't think I can do this. And he's like, how about this? You're going to be the leader on this. I'm going to be behind the scenes on Skype, and I will let you know if anything needs to happen. He didn't tell me very often that something needed to happen. And he said, my schedule is open all the time. Find some time. I will make time for you. He coached me. You can say this to a person and you won't seem mean. It's okay. You can tell this team no. you can make that person be more accountable. And it was through his coaching and his believing in me that I've got more than I see in myself, that really, this year I'm taking on more. I'm looking at ways to step up in my community more because I believe it, but first he saw it and he offered to help. So if you see somebody amazing, offer to be there, but then follow up and keep doing it, because we need people like you to step in, see the beauty, see the amazing things we're capable of, and then just nudge it, and we'll do it. It'll be amazing.
Have you gotten those nudges?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at Deloitte, it's about networking and, really finding and fostering those authentic relationships. And I'm proud to say that I have two great mentors who they're allies as well, and they truly give that investment. So they're, senior level mentors, but every time I get on a call or Zoom call, Teams call with them, you can tell that they're fully present. Like, they're not thinking about the thing that they just left or the thing that they're going to. It is our time to connect and, actually coach each other sometimes. So I would say it's really, about the investment and then sort of paying it forward. So at Deloitte in our Greater Washington, D.C. area, the LGBTQ plus chapter has a mentor-mentee program that I've signed up for and have been able to pay it forward and be a mentor to others, which is truly valuable. So.
Yeah, how do you feel being a mentor? What kind of benefits are you getting out of that?
Perspective. So, seeing, opening up my aperture is one of the major benefits of it. Like, yes, I have a lived experience that I view the world on, but being able to see it through other people's eyes is really impactful to me.
Love that. And if I can I give you all a little homework? Can I just assign homework for while you're at Summit? I think, I'd love to encourage everyone here to really listen to these experiences, but to commit to, we're spending a week together at this large LGBTQ plus and allied workplace conference. There are so many diverse leaders, allies, types of people here. I really, really encourage you, reach out, find at least one person that could be a potential mentor for you, and consider ways where you can act as a mentor to others. Maybe you're meeting colleagues from your organization for the first time, maybe you're building relationships with colleagues from other organizations, but I think one of the trends that I'm hearing here is really the benefit of having that mentorship and of having varied and multiple experiences. I was talking to some colleagues yesterday and sort of joking, but not really, regardless of how we organize our romantic and personal lives in terms of monogamy or not, you should not be monogamous when it comes to coaches and mentors, okay? Be poly when it comes to mentorship. Have a lot of different coaches, a lot of different mentors, right? Reflect experiences, learn from diverse role models. So yeah, be poly when it comes to mentorship, I would say. So I'd love to, I'm taking a look at the clock. I want to allow time for us, of course, to kick off our reception. So I have a couple more questions for you all, sort of as a way of closing out. And then I'd like to encourage those in the room, as well as those of us who are watching us via live stream, to submit questions. We do have the Q&A feature open via the app, and you're able to submit questions that way. We'll be able to take maybe 2 or 3 questions for the panel. I would say probably 2 is realistic, so just start thinking about those on the way. But as we start to sort of transition here, I'd love to get your advice for folks. And so I'm going to ask you for 2 different pieces of advice, and this way we will go around the space. The first is I'd love to hear from all of you what advice you have for LGBTQ plus professionals at the beginning of their careers. I know we are joined by folks who are in the beginning of their careers, and if you are here and feel comfortable clapping, do so we know that you are here. I see some folks, yes. So what advice for those, thank you, I'm so excited you're here now. What advice do you have for folks who are earlier in their careers, whether it's about coming out, being true to themselves, what might it be? Let's start with you, Cindy.
Sure. Number one advice is never underestimate the power of your queerness and the collective power of queerness. To what Erin, said earlier today. Together you are stronger. Together we are stronger. And your queerness is what makes you unique and special. And if you could truly harness that power and embrace that power, you can do a lot of great things, and the sky is your limit. I would also say the second piece is great power comes with great responsibility, so do not be complacent, because things you think you have today, marriage equality, all the rights that you've gotten ourselves, can be taken away tomorrow. So if you can, have the courage, put your hand up and say, I want to do something. I want to be part of this movement. I want to help me, my family, my LGBT plus communities, and other minority communities, because you are going to be the future queer leaders for us, and your representation and visibility is very important.
And I know a lot of the times when you're transitioning to the workforce after college, you're thinking, I don't want to hide myself. But then you're there on the Zoom call, and I know I've talked to folks who have 3 different identity flags as their background in the job interview Zoom call. You want to be gentle with first impressions about yourself, because remember, we all get it. But employers sometimes are going to be a little scared at first. So just like if I put my Italian family as my background, it would be like a little much. Just like if you were a car enthusiast and you put your last car purchase in the background, it would be a little much. Be gentle, be a good professional, but don't hide it. So yeah, go ahead and put your pronouns if you feel safe doing so, but don't let it be the brightest thing about you, because you're also amazing as professionals. And then be gentle with yourself if there are days when, like in one of our workshops for diverse leaders about microaggressions, you don't need to fix everything in every organization that is not well for our family, right? Well for our community, right? It's okay sometimes if I'm too tired, I'm not going to just correct somebody who misgendered me, because you know what? I'm exhausted, and that's a gift I'm giving myself. I am no less who I am, and I'm not a bad self-advocate if I take a moment to breathe for myself. Be gentle.
So yeah, before I give the advice, I just want to acknowledge that it's a great privilege, because not everyone can be on a stage.
Yeah.
So there. But also, the advice is, take that step knowing that you have a community behind you that's going to walk with you. And then always protect your joy and peace. And give yourself some grace, and those that you work with, and others grace as well.
I love that. Okay, so my final question, and then as I said, we may have space for 1, maybe 2. I'd love to hear your advice now for allies in the room. Allies, round of applause. If you're here in the room, allies. So this one's for you. What advice do you have for our allies, particularly, and here I don't just mean cisgender heterosexual allies, right? No one individual. Well, maybe you are here, make yourself known, but I've yet to meet the one person who identifies as L, as G, as B, as T, as Q, and as plus, right? We tend to be 1, maybe 2 or 3 of those letters. So those of us who identify as LGBTQ plus are also within that allyship framework. We need to be allies to each other. So what advice do you have for allies, of which we all are, particularly those who are in positions of power, to support LGBTQ plus leaders, especially those who experience multiple marginalizations in the workplace? We started with you before, so I'm going to give you a second this time. We're starting with you, Rashid.
So yeah, for allies, I would say first it starts with listening. Take the time to truly listen. And then think through how you can actually show up and act. but don't do it alone. So seek the advice of those that you're supporting your allyship with, and stand up and act.
Excellent. Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
If there are ways we've told you we need help, putting your pronouns on your emails, stopping people who are saying things that are really kind of ugly. If we've told you how to do something, do it. Don't wait for us to be in the room. Don't wait for us to teach you how to do it. Find out what you're supposed to do and then do it. And then if you're making changes in your organization, ask one of us to be in the room. And if you don't have anybody like me, you can hire some professionals. We exist. We're out there. But don't make us do all of the work. Be informed by us, but I've got other things I want to do in life, right?
Yeah.
I would say be severe. It's ultimately all about hiring, retention, and promotion, right? When you're talking about elevating talent, pulling people up to, putting people in a senior position and breaking those ceilings that we talked about. Hiring, make sure if you're in a senior position, you have put together a mandate of diversity hiring. Make sure that your pipeline has strong, diverse talent. You're going to have to work with your HR partner. Make it mandatory. Make it a mandate for your business partners in HR. Promotion, retention, obviously value them as you would value a prince or princess. Again, we're in Disneyland. They are valuable assets of your company. Like Severe, he could have just let me go because I have already submitted my resignation. He has nothing to do with me. I don't work for him anymore. But he sees that diversity of thoughts, right? The value of having diverse talent within an organization. So you have to do that for your LGBT plus talent in your organization. Value them. Find every opportunity to elevate them, to promote them, and to put them in position of importance. And I really, I almost cried when you said, LGBT people need to be better allies for T. I run the Global Transgender Benefits Working Group. I didn't know, 5 years ago, I didn't know anything about trans, right? But being a pansexual, the B, which is, again, also a minority within a minority,
Yep.
I completely feel how important it is for us minority to speak with minority of a minority, because if we don't, no one will,
Exactly.
right? Allies would speak for us. Yeah, I mean, straight allies, it's easy for them to grasp supporting gay, lesbians, etc., right?
Yeah.
But bi, pan, trans, it's very, one steps remote, away from them. So I would really recommend you and ask you to think what you can do for our trans folks, for our bi folks. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much. As I said, I believe we have time for a couple of questions. I'm just taking a moment here. It's hard for me to see. I see a hand. Where's our mics? There's a hand all the way back there, all the way in the back. And then I'll make you run all the way to the front. First two hands I saw.
Is it working? It's on. Hi everyone. So thank you very much for all of your advices, because they did had some impacts on me. So I do have a question for you guys. Kind of like I would love to hear your advice on this. So I am a young professional at a medium-sized company. I would describe my company as like a traditional American company. We are moving forward, but we are not there yet. So what advice would you have for me to communicate, the importance of my identities to the leadership? Because, it's very daunting a lot of times for me, because, I always have to think about, I have to come out, and then I have to explain why is it important for the business, and like what aspect of me is going to benefit the business, So yeah, I would like to hear your advice on that.
So your question is how do you communicate your identity with the senior leadership in your company?
Yeah, and why
Do
it's
you have a
important for
Pride
them.
network?
Yes, we do. We have a Pride network, but we are actually just started like a couple years ago, so we are pretty small. To give you in a perspective as well, so I am stationed out of Moundsville, West Virginia, which is, in the deep red state too. So, yeah, I came out to my Pride network, but nobody in my gas processing plants actually know who I am, and it's always scary for me to like. I don't know how to start that conversation.
Yeah. I heard a request for making a business case for diversity too. Did I hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, don't underestimate, or they shouldn't underestimate, and maybe you can convey this to them, the power that it would have not only internally, but then externally. I mean, you mentioned you're in a red state, West Virginia. I am sure that there are queer people in the state of West Virginia that may be looking at your organization as, a career opportunity. So, I mean, it's good for business in terms of attracting talent, would be my perspective.
I always use this one example. Statistics shows that if you come out, your productivity increases 30%, right? So very simple math. If one person come out, if 3 people come out, you save 1 head count. That's the business case.
Here's where you'll see I'm an advisor. So if we think about the workforce, if you're not preparing for the next generation now, you've already missed it. Because the average age of senior leadership, or the average age of professionals in a lot of careers, advisors, age 55. For accountants, age 50. I cannot find good accountants. If you think about 15 years from now, when people retire at age 62 or 65, as is the average in this country, the people who are going to be the 50-year-olds then are, hey, 36 right now, right? I notice when companies miss me. I notice when companies don't take care of people like me. I can guarantee you other people do too. Who's going to take my place in 15 years? It's a person who's 20 years old, just graduated, starting their entry-level job right now. Who's going to take their place? The 5-year-old kid who's being raised by people like me, by the 20-year-olds. So if you're not thinking about making your job, your workplace, good for, Generation Z and Generation Alpha, right now, 80% of my generation believes that diversity and inclusion is important in the workforce. 50% of us believe that gender is a spectrum. You're already behind the ball if you haven't made it. So have them think about it, because if they're having a hard time hiring now, good luck later.
Absolutely. And I'll also have to make, yet another push for that, the research that we released this week that I think will be relevant to you on the Lavender ceiling, but also on recruiting the next generation of LGBTQ leaders as well. So definitely encourage you to check that out on our website. I believe we have time for one more question. Jinji, I'd seen all the way up front here. We made eye contact, so that's how that works.
So one of the things that I've been focusing on during this conference so far is highlighting queer joy. And so Ari, this is a question for you. What was one of the corporate gender euphoria moments that you had experienced early on?
Ooh, I love that.
Oh. Y'all, Bank of America is fantastic at this. So when I started coming out just quietly, I was like, this is me, but I don't know if I'm comfortable saying it. People started noticing little by little. And that's how I got tied into the international training team, where again, I was recognized and asked to join something bigger and better. 3 years ago, during the pandemic, I'd been telling my colleagues, my coworkers, I'd been coming out. I'd been doing the hard, brave things. And I got this amazing award, a Global Diversity and Inclusion Award. It's a beautiful award, y'all. And
we love the aesthetics.
And it felt amazing to show up in this small award space with this gorgeous little glass thing. It's pretty. And to feel like people recognized that it was brave and hard that I was doing a thing, and they wanted to thank me and they wanted to recognize it. I never expected that.
Well, congratulations on that.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. I'd love to expand. That's a great question. I'd love to expand that question to the two of you as well. Can you repeat the question one more time?
So just focusing more on queer joy throughout this conference, what were some moments of, I said specifically gender euphoria, but in general, like just queer euphoria within the corporate workspace?
Yeah.
So for me, it actually was when I joined Deloitte a little over 2 years ago. The same group that I acknowledged earlier, the Greater Washington area, had posted on our team's site that they were interested in researching about the Washington, D.C. Black Pride. Like, it just, like, wow. Typically, organizations the size of Deloitte focus on the national pride. So to see Deloitte make a commitment to my community, Black Pride, was just, it still chokes me up to this day.
Yeah.
That's a hard question because there's so many moments. I'm trying to pick. I'll give three top on my list. When I was in Hong Kong running the HSBC Pride Network out there, we were the first ever company in Asia. I don't know in the States, but I'm pretty sure it's also globally. It was years ago, probably about 10 years ago, we lit up our main building into rainbow colors throughout Pride Month. So I was super proud of that achievement. We also, I don't know if you know, are familiar with HSBC, we have two iconic lions, Steve and Sid. They have names, yes, they do. And we made a replica, same size replica of them, hired an LGBT plus artist and paint them in rainbow colors. Put them in front of our building. It's a statement. It's a bold statement from HSBC to the world that we are inclusive of LGBT plus talent. Imagine, it's in Hong Kong, right? So it's a bit more conservative. So that was also pretty high up. But I think the most important piece of work and the proudest moment that brought me joy was really the advocacy work, the policy changes that we make as LGBT folks within the company or allies within the company, people working in ERGs or DEI team, is to actually be able to make changes that changes life. And that's why I founded the Global Transgender Benefits Network working group in HSBC about 2.5 years ago. And since then, we have been rolling out transgender benefits across different countries that HSBC operate in. Last year, we put Canada, the Philippines, and the UK over the line. This year, we're working on China, which is one of the more challenging jurisdictions, but we have 30,000 employees there, so that has to be high up on that list. India, and Mexico. So those are the kind of work that really brings me joy.
And this week is Queer Joy as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Cindy. All right. So thank you all again for sharing your perspectives with us. We are inviting you to join us across the hall. Before we do, I'd love to ask you to join me in thanking our panelists one more time, but also in thanking our dear colleagues, both over here as well as in the back of the stage, recording, all of our sound and AV teams who've supported and made this a reality. So again, thank you all for your help. Thank you. And thank you all as well. All right, let's get some refreshments.